Hello, we're still on Sumer. That once again are the ancient Sumerians, that mystery group who had left us plenty of contributions, the coin, the will, the Sumerians. So, social classes. Of course, their highest level is the ruling family. What a big surprise. So, the king priest rules at the top. Under him are the leading officials and the other priests. You will remember that the ruling family tends to be both warlords, but also taking over the religion. They're polytheistic, and they don't believe their gods are nice people. They like to appease them. So to keep power, the king tends to say, well, they talk to me. If you want to appease anybody, appease me. Next is the middle class. This is a very small group. They're the lesser priests. So the high priests are on top. The lesser, normal priests are on in the middle. Scribes. Because, as John Green has said, reading and writing will help to elevate you. You can never expect to pull yourself out of whatever situation you're in or improve upon yourself if you cannot read and write. So scribes, they're the ones who would write down what the king says, yada yada, what the priests say, etc. That is, their job is to write. Next are the merchants. You're usually going to find merchants in the middle class. And artisans. The difference is the merchant just sells things. Artisans actually make their goods and sell them. That's your blacksmiths, your artists, your pottery makers, artisans. The lowest class are the farmers. Yes, the farmers are always... You cannot live without your farmers. But for some reason, farmers you are going to find are always in the lowest class. Under the farmers are the slaves. This is going to be normal in almost every civilization we look at. Peasants and farmers are at the bottom, and that's pretty much most of your people. That is your 98%, 99% now. And the slaves underneath them. Yes, Sumerians had slaves, if you had not caught on to that yet. Religion, once again, they are polytheistic, believing in many gods, and these gods each control different aspects of nature. And they believe their highest duty was to keep the gods happy, or they're going to send a flood and destroy them, because the Tigris and Euphrates like the flood a lot. And to ensure their safety of their city-state. I anger the wrong god, and maybe the other Sumerian city-state's going to come get me. That is, if I survive the flood that, I peeved off the god of the river, and now he wants me to. So each city has their own temple, which is a ziggurat, and they dedicate these to the different gods. Because if you're a god, what's the fun of not having a temple? You need a temple to go with it. And they believed in a very, very grim afterlife. Basically, their gods are not nice people. Things around them are not great. It's rough. It's the Middle East. Yeah, it didn't look much prettier back then before global warming messed it up more. So they believed in a grim afterlife. In the underworld, there's no release. This is an early version of basically a hellscape. So, it was a bummer. You died and you suffered for eternity. Sorry. It's just the way life is. We are going to look at this, by the way, then at the Egyptians. Once again, the Nile is a predictable river. Life in Egypt was better. You're going to see a lot of difference in their afterlife beliefs, too, and what they're focused on. Egyptians are more hopeful. This is a ziggurat, or the Sumerian version of a temple. It's a Mesopotamian temple. Babylon's not going to look much different. So that is a ziggurat, or their version of a temple. You'll find that this has some similarities up at the top with the Mayans. So, one thing other they gave us was, once again, cuneiform. It's a Latin word for cuneus, or wedge. And it was created around 3200 BC, BCE, whatever you want to call it. And scribes would carve these wedge-shaped marks on clay tablets. using sharp tools called a stylus. People who work with clay still use a stylus. It's that little long thing you chisel with the hammer. It's a stylus. Also note that if you're one of those people with touchscreen who can't just go boop, 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 and have to have the tiny little penguin poop, that's also called a stylus. It comes from the Sumerians and what they used to carve. So not only do the scribes have to be able to read and write, they're sitting there and it takes forever to write anything because you have to chisel it. So this does evolve into a system of pictographs used to record things like goods brought into the temple and storehouse. So once again, I believe I've mentioned it before, a lot of early writings that we still have are basic grocery lists. They're paperwork. The paperwork has survived more than anything else. And so in this case, it's just recorded goods brought into the temple and storehouses. So naturally, as languages do, it does become more complicated over time. I can tell you that if you ever heard Old English, it's not going to resemble what we speak today. In this case, the writing was more simplistic, becomes more and more difficult, more complex. Not as bad as English, where we like to, steal words. Well, no, we like to mug other countries and other cultures for their words. It's not stealing, it's a full-on mugging. So here are examples of cuneiform. You'll notice it's a really rather jagged system. Egyptians are more fluid and easier to tell what they're talking about. Cuneiform was even harder. So other contributions, once again, from Sumer. They started developing astronomy and mathematics. They like the number 6 and the number 60. So that we can think them for 360 degrees representing a circle, 60 minutes in a second, 60 minutes in an hour. It's all the Sumerians. They did not, however, have absolute zero. That's the Mayans. So once again, they divided the hour into 60 minutes because they really love the number 60, and divided the circle into 360 degrees because, once again, they like things that are divisible by 6. It's just them. So, even 24 hours in a day, it's divisible by 6. They also have the first known written epic story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which you should have done by now. And looked at it. It is a narrative poem about a hero named Gilgamesh. Yes, you do need to know who Gilgamesh is. Any cultured person knows who Gilgamesh is. Who may have, there's an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where he refers to Gilgamesh. And he actually was probably a real king in Uruk. But if you've done your homework and did the Epic of Gilgamesh, you will realize some of the things they say happened to him, likely did not happen to him. And around 2500 BC, the Akkadians happened. So invaders began conquering Sumer city-states, meaning another Mesopotamian culture came in, and not the little Sumer city-states, but one of the other ones, started building an empire. They took out the Sumerians. Same thing's going to end up happening to that empire with the Babylonians. In about 1900 BC, they had been overrun by different invaders. If you watch this silly little conspiracy video, yes, descendants of the Sumerians do still survive, at least in one little group. You're going to almost always have survivors when a culture is invaded. Usually they are actually integrated into the new culture, at least the peasants and the slaves are. When you take over an empire, you take over city-states, you do not use, it's dumb to kill your farmers. You want to keep the farmers unless you needed that farmland. And otherwise they still keep them and just use them as slaves. So most of the culture is overrun, but it is also absorbed into the invaders' culture. And through cultural diversity, it is therefore spread. As the invaders spread, they will take those ideas and spread those as well. Hence cultural diversity and how they are such a big influence on the world today. Why we still use 60 minutes. Why we still use 360 degrees. Why there's still 24 hours in a day. So, why did cuneiform have such a major impact on the ancient world? And why is it such a major step in history? This will probably be your next bell work question. And we will then join back up with the Akkadians, I believe, is next. Oh, maybe Babylon. But I believe I will be doing the Akkadians next, so I will see you then.